NRL Fantasy Round 5 buy, hold, sell. A couple of special features for today too. We've got the risky business section where we're looking at those guys who are especially risky buys this week. And we look at the captains too. So no Nico Hines, no Nathan Cleary. No problems if you stick with us here. Fungi, mate, great to have you on the show here. For everyone who doesn't know, he was a third place finisher last year. He's going for number one this year. Mate, I'll throw it to you here because I know you're high on Dylan Brown. I know you got on him. So let us know what you think here. Is he still a buy at 665k?
Absolutely. I got on D-Bags last week and had a high BE, and a lot of people saying, let's wait and see. But if you look at the historical record when Mitch Moses is not playing, he's an absolute stud. He's like a 63-point average, I think, when Mitch Moses is out. And straight away when I saw he was out for 12 weeks, I jumped at him straight away. No hesitation. And it's not too late this week because he actually didn't make money. So he's an absolute buy in my books.
Mate, fortune favors the brave. I'm with you. You got to make these moves early, and you got to get on early. You got 60 odd points this week from him. It's a great score. He's a potential captain through the origin period as well, especially if Moses is out. So, yeah, worth keeping an eye on. I've got my eye on him, but I might have too many Parramatta players. I'll throw it to Kai Pierce-Paul next, 585k. Still a really good price for him. Still a really valuable price. Last week, you saw him go in. He got 80 minutes for the third consecutive week. He scored 53 points almost exclusively in base stats. So he's a guy who can produce an offload, great run meters, great tackle stats, pretty good defensive efficiency. Those attacking stats will come though, because he's on that edge where, guys like Tyson Frizzell, Lockie Fitzgibbon, Dylan Lucas, these guys have scored tries for fun. So for Kai Pierce-Paul, I think they're going to come to, and at 585k, the more I look at him actually at that price, the more I think I'm going to have to find a way to get him in. Are you on KPP yet, or are you buying him now?
I have been eyeing him off for the last few weeks, but I've always had different problems, and I wanted to get him, and then the price is kind of slowly creeping away. So I'm trying to weigh up: is he at a decent price where he'll still make some money? So the jury's out on that, but I think he's definitely a very solid buy. The fear was always Dylan Lucas, will he take his spot? But I think the last couple of weeks have shown that Adam O'Brien trusts KPP, and he's got the 80-minute role, and he's very solid. So I can't see why he'll lose that spot.
Yeah, I mean, that price, I think it might be the last week, though, because he's going to go up quite a bit again this week. So you can't pull the trigger now or don't do it at all. I'll throw into Clint Gutherson next as well. 585k. He's a guy I got on last week. 65 points, absolutely dominated. No Mitch Moses. Parramatta copped a loss. Look, just has his hands on the ball a ton. And when he plays without Moses, he's a 60 average. We talked about him last week, along with Dylan Brown. These two are just surefire high performers without Moses there. They both just take on more work. It's really straightforward. For Gutho, 586k, it's a low price. It's cheap. I think he was about 567 last week, so he's gone up a little bit, but you're still getting a discount here, and you're getting a guy that you can hold through a lot of the origin period as well, when most of those top wing fullbacks are out for origin. So, yeah, he's a surefire sort of buy this week. I'll throw him to you next. Jamal Fogarty, 741k. It's pretty expensive. It's actually more than I expected. Do you think it's too late on Fogarty, or should people still be looking at him?
I think it's a bit too late. Watching Fogarty really hurts because he was a player that I identified preseason that I really wanted to own, but because I didn't see him in trials, it kind of spooked me a little bit, so I didn't get on him. And now every week he plays, he's really solid. He's got the kick meters, crazy kick meters. He controls the games. Ethan Strange really doesn't do that much. It's all going through Fogarty. So he's really solid, but I think at this price point, it's still a buy. It's not a bad buy at all, but I don't think you're going to make much money out of it. It's just a kind of solid peak whilst these highs and clears out.
Yeah, I mean, Strange just kicked the ball one time in 4 weeks of footy. So
amazing.
Yeah, he's not doing much in that spot. Just a pure running six, I guess. So yeah, Fogarty, 741k. He'll come up in the captaincy conversation because he has been a flat 60 average, and I think his lowest score is like 58 this year. So super, super solid. I'll throw Hopgood in here as well. And yeah, man, like 56 minutes last week, came off the bench. I was a bit worried for him in terms of fantasy production because he came onto the field, he made an error, and he missed a couple of tackles. And I thought, oh, this could be the week where he sort of gets a bit cheaper for us. Ended up turning out 70 points. So I was completely wrong there. Had a really clean bust, set up a Gutho try early in the second half. And Hopgood, 842k, dual position for middle and edge. he just looks like one of those top tier keepers. And if you've got too much money to spend, which I don't think any of us do, but if you have too much to spend, you can do a lot worse than Hopgood.
Yeah.
I'll roll into the next section here because this is the really fun stuff. Risky business. These are 5 guys who some of them are on the watch list rather than the buy list right now, but some of them they could be buyers right now. And I'll throw Gussie Crichton to you first, Rob. What do you think of Gus Crichton? How excited are you to see him starting again? And are your hopes up high, or are you a bit more pessimistic?
I'm on this week. So
No way.
I'm dumping another edge in Sitili and then getting onto Gus. I'm doing it this week. So
You're stuck up
I
a
know he's
punishment, man. Just chooks back row. Just keep on going.
Why not? Why not? But he's just got the pedigree, right? And obviously the risk is, will he perform? Will he secure that role? Will he get the minutes, etc.? But at that price, for this kind of pedigree player, just have to do it. And if we get it wrong, get it wrong. So what? Just have a punt. It's part of the game about having fun, right? And then I've always loved the way he's played. So last couple of years has been a bit sad, actually, watching him kind of decline. But before that, GC was good, like, when he first started. So I'm hoping he get back to that level. But at 4.37, the risk for me is quite low. So I'm on.
Dude, I got to drop 2 things in here as well. When he plays big minutes, it's a 58 average, which is absurd, right? It's like a 70 game sample size. Like it's something insane like that. And then the other part of it is he's passed the eye test. So I've only seen 25 minutes a week from him. But when I watch him play, he straightens up the attack. He runs those holes a lot harder than anyone at the Chooks Club. And he just looks like the best back rower on the field. And he is the best back rower at the Chooks. So, yeah, 437K, there's not a lot of risk to it. He's a 55 break even this week. So if you want to wait, that's probably more sensible. But if you're a mad dog like Rob, let us know in the comments that you're buying Gus Crichton this week. And we'll give you a shout out next week, whether he goes good or bad. We might be roasting you if he goes bad, though. So, yeah, I respect the hustle, man. Like, you got to make these calls sometimes before everyone else. He could easily score a double against the Dogs or something like that and pop out 70 points. Then all of a sudden, you're ahead of everyone. So, I don't mind the move. Aaron Clark next, 451K. Now, this is a bit of a speculator. So, please don't just go and buy Aaron Clark on the back of me saying this. But Aaron Clark's played, I think it's like 7 games over 50 minutes. In those 7 games, he's averaged 55 points in 55 minutes. Rationale here is that he's the starting lock this week. I'm hearing Palacia could be out for a little bit. I'm seeing Liu is out as well. And I'm seeing Aaron Clark in that starting lock spot without too many guys who are going to steal big minutes from him. The risk there is that Chris Randall maybe moves to lock when Verrills comes on. That there could be a lot of things that go wrong here. But there also could be something that goes right. And at 451K, you could potentially, being the key word, get a 55 average who plays hooker and middle with a season where hookers have been pretty dodgy. So he could be that guy for your hooker. I'd probably wait a week to watch and see. You'll pay a bit of a premium, but if he comes out, plays well, and locks down that spot, he's very interesting.
Definitely, I agree. He's always a player that I have an eye out on. Because I remember a couple of seasons ago, he started at 13 and he went on a run of games where exactly what you said, he had that really high average. And that's always stuck in my mind. So the last couple of seasons, he hasn't really got a run. So he's definitely one to keep an eye out on.
100%. Are you excited about Sean Bloor starting spot next to Munster?
Yes, 100%. I was on the Bloor train even when he was at the Tigers. So
Bloor Express.
Bloor Express. It turned out to be, I don't know what you call it. It came to a grinding halt. But
the train terminated.
Definitely. But at the Storm, we know how good the Storm are. Outside of Munster, outside of Jerome Hughes, he's got a lot of attacking upside, I think. But it's definitely a wait and see, I think. It's not a rush in and get him because not exactly cheap, but if he turns out to, do what he can do, fulfill his potential, I think he could be a 700K plus player.
Well, he was a 45 average when he played big minutes at the Tigers. So you sort of take that 45 and you apply a bit of consistency at the Storm, some more attacking opportunities next to Munster. I would up the try scoring rate by about 0.2 per game. So there's a bit that comes with that in terms of line breaks and sort of tackle breaks as well. So I think realistically it could be a 50 average, which lends itself to exactly what you're saying. Him and Eli Katoa. Problem is I already have Eli Katoa. So I don't know if I want 2 of those Storm back rowers, but 518k. If he comes out and kills it this week, and we see Chan named in reserve grade next week, because Chan's still not named anywhere. That's the bit that's really going to tell me that Sean Blow has locked down that spot long term. I'll go to DCE next, and this is a guy who was a big part of your run to third place last year. But DCE 736k minus 44k last week, scored a 48 in that game with again no attacking stats. I'm looking at him, and I know I get criticized sometimes for being a little bit. I hang on to older players a little too long, and I hang on to the return to the norm idea. And I look at the DCE, and to me, he's a 60 plus average. Now, last year it was a 63 average. This year I had him forecast as a 55. But this drop into the 40s is far beyond what we can expect. So I think once we get to the end of the year, we're going to see him sort of closer to that mid 50s mark. If you get on him at the right time, you could get a run of form for a very low price from a guy who is top tier fantasy pedigree. Now, would I buy him over a Dylan Brown? Absolutely not. Am I worried about Origin? Absolutely am. But at the same time, I'm just keeping an eye on him. He's risky business. He could be that pod that really takes off for you, especially if you're a head-to-head coach. He's one worth keeping an eye on.
He's a classy player, right? Everyone knows that. And, there's that Luke Brooks effect that everyone's been talking about. And obviously it has played into it somewhat. But like you said, if the price keeps on dropping, there's a point where he's going to have a run. DCE is DCE. He's going to score 100 points one game and 84 a few games afterwards. He can do it easily. So it's definitely not one to keep an eye on for.
DCE is DCE. That's the caption for the video. He is, man. He's done it every year for such a long time. So, yeah, why not again this year? Sean Lane's the last one here, and I've had Sean Lane for a bit. I'd be curious to know if you've been looking at him as a potential buy option as well. But from my side, I held on just because that 80-minute role just kept coming every week. And even though he's playing really average footy, he was playing 80 minutes. I figured the match fitness would come and the line would open up for him a bit. And last week, he really cracked it open with a 54-point game, pretty much exclusively in base stats, 160 meters, 31 tackles, no misses, a couple of offloads, just a very strong all-round back rowers game. Would you be considering getting Sean Lane, or do you think the other options are too attractive?
Not for me, because I've got too many power players. So I've got Guffo, Dylan Brown, and also this week I'll be bringing Blaze. So I don't want 4 power players. But I think this is a really good lesson in what you did, Longy, in terms of holding on to a player that looks like, they don't score very well, but their role hasn't changed. And they've got the pedigree. There's no point panicking and knee-jerking. The averages will come. If their role hasn't changed, they're in a good team, it will happen. So that's a great lesson. It's not easy sometimes when you see the player scores 28 points or whatever it was, but it's just
20.
what you have to do.
20 rounds.
Was it 20?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was brutal.
So that's
he had like 6 missed tackles.
But that was a game where not many people scored well as well, right? So it wasn't just him. It was just a funny game where everyone had low scores. So it's just a really good lesson for players. Do not panic. If you have a class player that is proven, their role hasn't changed, hold on.
Yeah, spot on, man. Spot on. We did a video on this as well in terms of why we trade, why we don't trade. And Sean Lane was one that, if they're getting 80 minutes, and Sean Lane has been between a 40 and about a 54 average every season of his career when he gets those minutes. So, when you were seeing that sort of 31 average, it wasn't something to really be taking seriously. It was just a match fitness and early season problem. So, yeah, I actually think he's worth eyeing off as a buy option, but I think Kai Pearce-Paul is a little more solid, and I think Gus Crichton has a little more upside. There's a few options sort of around him in price that make him not as attractive, but in a period of the season where we had less options, he'd be one I'd be sort of spruiking up here. Now, hold or sell. And this is one where I've only mentioned a few of these guys because I think it's worth talking about whether we should panic on them. And Tommy Turbo is the first one. Everyone got really excited about Tommy. I know we were talking about the stats in little CCA chat we've got and talking about how Turbo was the most captain player in the top 1,000 and produced a real stinker for coaches there. But for Tommy Turbo, do you panic if you've got him? Do you think it's a case of that's the norm for him now? He's going to fall off a cliff and they're going to lose to teams like the Dragons every week? Or you think it's a bounce back effect where he comes out and turns it up this week?
He's human to me. Like every player has a bad game. Every player has good games. So he's a class player. There's no need to panic. He'll come out and get 100 points, and then you'll be like, why did I sell him? So these are guys, unless they're injured or their role change, there's no point in selling them.
I mean, maybe not against Penrith this week, but the week after, there'll be an easy game. Yeah. Whereas Tedesco, he comes out of the game against Penrith. He goes up against the Dogs this week. Dogs have a few injuries in their side. Some very good players missing this week. Addo Carr, Jacob Preston, two really noteworthy ones there. I think Teddy could tear up. He's going to be in the captain conversation that we have, so I'm not going to give any spoilers away. But as a Tedesco owner, he's sitting with that little VC in my team right now just because he kind of looks good with it. So if you got Tedesco, enjoy the ride. If you don't have Tedesco, 746k it's kind of overs, I think. Those of you who started paid 670k. You probably don't want to be jumping on a guy 80k later. He really doesn't have the upside to go up much further. Sam Hughes, 278k. Have you got Sam Hughes, Fungy?
I do. The great man lives into the starting side, but I am slightly pessimistic about what he's going to do from the starting side anyway. I don't think he's going to get big minutes. Even though it looks good that he's starting, I'm kind of pessimistic he's going to get maybe about 30, 35 minutes tops.
Oh, no, I want to believe. So right now, pre-trades, he's sitting in my starting team. Because I've got Pia Kura, Nico Hines, Lockie Galvin, and Chan, right? So I might trade one of those guys. But I reckon, like, Sam Hughes, he can mostly convert a point from a minute, right? So if he goes and gets 35 to 40 minutes, Josh Curran is sitting on that edge spot as well, and he was eating a lot of middle minutes too, right? So I think theoretically Sam Hughes could play more minutes. When he plays, he looks like he could handle more minutes. I think they're just working up to it. Yeah. I'm actually kind of quietly confident to start him this week on my bench and just get that sort of 35 points. I think he clears 30 pretty comfortably this week. That's my call on him, but maybe not. I mean, what are you saying? What's your prediction for Sammy Hughes?
Those things change quickly. It's like it feels like it's an Easter story, right? Like everyone was about to dump him, he was dead, and now he's risen, and everyone's going, okay, I'll keep him for one more week. So you can't dump him while he's starting. You just got to see what happens, right? So you just I've got him on loop. I still don't trust him, so I've got him on loop.
I'll throw one at you that I don't trust, and I was asked the other day on a podcast, how much do I trust this guy? I gave a 0 out of 10. Ben Trebojevic, he is dead to me. He is finished. No, he's done. Like a 15-point game backed up with a 22-point game. I think he was on like 24 after 30 minutes, and he just sort of went down a bit and then just subbed off. Corey Waddell is playing better footy than he is too. Like I don't want to borrow it. 354k. I'm going to take the money. I'm going to run as far away as I can from this. I'm going to get Blaze or someone different at that spot. I can't deal with it anymore. What do you think of this guy? Are you keeping Burbo, or is he out of your team as well?
My brain can't compute a edge that plays decent minutes scoring 20 points. I just can't compute that. But I will keep him. I'll use him as a loop. And then probably next week, if there's someone that comes on that's a bit better, he's definitely on the chopping block. So it's just tragic watching him play every week.
Yeah. The minutes are sliding, though. He's getting subbed off earlier and earlier and earlier. And that Brooks edge isn't performing the way it was. They've got Manly this week. They've got the Panthers this week. I just reckon he'd get totally clamped up. Like, there's every chance that he comes out and has a real back rowers game and scores 40 points and gets it done. But I just want to get rid of him. I think we can trust Strange a little bit. Like, he's got a good running game. He can pop every now and then. Whereas Burbo, 15, 22. I don't want to be here for the next 17-point game. I'm just the train has left for me. I've taken off. I'm not here anymore. I've gone.
Him and Tommy Talau, best mates in the team.
Tommy Talau. Yeah, I mean this episode is always brought to you by Tommy Talau.
22 points. 22 points.
14 this week.
14, sorry.
Yeah. We love Talau season. Yeah, there we go. Mate, good on him. Good on him finding a spot at Manly. But yeah. Hold or sell, last one here, Totola. And I'll throw it to you because I traded out Totola after round one. I was just, nah, Terrell May, get him into my team. I don't want to do this Totola thing. He's put together 3 40-point games since then, so he's playing all right. But is it good enough to hold, or do you think coaches should be selling him off?
Here's another one that's on my chopping block potentially next week. So it's not an urgent sell, but if someone better comes along that presents value, he's a perfect one that you pick off and change over to someone else. So it's not bad. Like you said, 40 points, you take that every week for someone at that price. But he's going to get to a point where he will start losing money, in about 40K's time. So now's the time to kind of look for alternatives, like a Bloor potentially, or someone like that. Even a Sean Lane, switching over to someone that has more upside.
Yeah, rate it highly. Give him the flick. Cheapies. Now this section was pretty dry this week, so we kind of had to make a few things up to fill the spots. So you're gonna get some very creative answers here, and then we'll go into captains, which is really interesting as well. First one here, Blaze Talangi. There are pluses and minuses to this pick, and as a Parramatta fan, I feel like I'm uniquely positioned to comment on this, especially after going to the Tigers game, bringing like 8 family members who are Tigers supporters, and then getting laughed at for hours afterwards. But for Blaze, right, it was 110 meters in this game. Pretty good defensive stat line. Not really much of a kicker. You got 34 fantasy points out of him without the big attacking stats. That's great. That's really good. The downside here is that Parramatta's attack looked really rough without that primary playmaker. So if they struggle again to attack this week, his job security is not perfect. And they could bring in a Dejan RC, or they could bring in someone else into that spot. So I do have concerns about the job security, but I have no concerns about Blaze in particular. I think he's playing good footy. It's just a question of whether Parramatta want him in that roster. That's the only thing I'm worried about. I'm probably still going to make the move and buy him because he's 300K, he plays center, and he's not Ben Drabojevic. But we're going to put Burbo at the start of this next time. But, yeah. But at the same time, like, no, seriously, I mean, that's what I think of Blaze. Do you think much of him or anything different to what I'm saying?
To me, it's a very lazy buy for me. So I'm probably going to buy him as well, but it's just because he's cheap.
Yep.
He's in a pretty good team. Like, he's got low break even. Seems going to make money.
Good. A pretty good team.
Yeah. Well,
Cold winners here, mate. Oh. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so it's like I said, I haven't done much research on Blaze. I just feel like he just ticks the boxes in terms of a cheapie, so I'll just jump on. But I wouldn't be shocked, like you said, if they lose another game, if Guffey misses another kick at the end for a win, then yeah, he might be gone. So it might be a silly buy, but at this stage, there's not much around, so it's kind of like you're nearly forced to do it.
You're stuck with it. Once you go with Schiller, 34 points, 2 tries, 2 line breaks. How excited are you about that one?
Would have been, I think I worked out, would have been 9 points without those attacking stats. So
yeah,
I'm going to leave Schiller on the side, even though I think his stats aren't too bad, right? I haven't looked at him in depth, but I'm just not a fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not great.
Yeah, I was kind of confused with Bobo.
Yeah. Look, to be fair, Schiller has the dual position, which is kind of nice. Kyle Hero is interesting as well, 268K. You don't buy him this week. They got the buy this round, but he can play wing. He can play center at some point in the year. And actually, you know what? I'm going to say this. The next time he gets a starting spot, I'll probably buy him and probably just hold on to him and just ride the wave. Because I think he's going to be the cover player for at least both center spots and probably both winger spots. I don't think he's the cover for fullback necessarily with Dykes there, but I just think the talent's there. He's got that 49. His price moving in the right direction. So I'm happy to take a bit of a gamble on him at some point when he gets that start next. I don't think he dislodges Talakai, though. I think it's going to be a case of injuries getting him back into the team.
Jesse looked good, didn't he? Like, it's nearly a shame that he's there. Like, I feel like he gets a start at many other clubs. He looked really strong, runs really hard, tackles well. It's just really, it's a shame that he just sits in the reserve grade.
I've been begging Parramatta to sign him for like 3 years now, ever since going to some Jets games and seeing him play. He's an absolute weapon.
We got Morgan Harper instead.
Hey, we got Bailey Simonson this week, so he's going to be on my buy list next week when he's 450k.
Okay.
So yeah, you can't stop me. You can't stop me. All right, Ben Takura. You got any thoughts about Ben Takura?
It looks good. It's like Xavier Wilson, right? He's going to take that role. He's going to get 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then next week he's going to be gone. Someone else can take his place. So it's
Payne
a
Haas.
big no-no. Yeah, big no-no.
Yep. Skip. Agree. I don't hate the cash down. Like, so the problem is we can't afford red dots in our teams, so it's a hard thing to do. But theoretically, if you have a really full roster and you just want the cash down, Takura should be pretty good through the Origin period. Maybe not amazing though. The problem is guys like Fletcher Baker and Corey Jensen, they sponge up the minutes.
Mm.
And they don't do anything crazy with them, but they eat up all those minutes. Even like a Jaden Hunt can sneak in. I don't know. I just think sometimes you try to pick those guys closer to Origin that could potentially kick off through that period. Moretti is the same for me. So 259k, produced 29 points in 24 minutes. I was really impressed by him in real life. I think he's a good player in real life as a para fan. The pathway to minutes is not good at all. But if you see guys like Jermaine Hopgood, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Junior Paulo making Origin teams, maybe a couple of injuries for Parramatta, Moretti could easily convert sort of 40 points out of 40 minutes at some point in the year. And if that were to happen closer to Origin or through that Origin period, then he becomes this year's William McGregor. So I've kind of got an eye on him, but not enough to make the call this week.
I'll follow your lead. I honestly had no idea who he was. I thought he was a pasta dish. Like, I had no idea who he was. So I only knew about him because of what you're telling me.
Okay, I'll tell you when to get him. But Moretti's is actually a great restaurant in Leichhardt. That was
okay.
Yeah, one of me and the Misso's first dates at Moretti's in Leichhardt. Delicious. So the pasta el fungo, I think it is, which is good for you.
No relation. Hey, no relation.
It's like a truffle mushroom dish. It's so good. But Moretti's anyway, and Moretti, both of those. Let's go to captains here now. So let's pick our captains. And we can make the calls here. We've got some different guys that we like. I'm keen to come back next week and see which one of us got the right captain. So talk through these guys, and I'll throw it to you first. Who's your guy on this list?
I've currently got the captaincy of Murray. He's playing the Warriors. I saw some stat from someone saying that the last 3 times they played the Warriors, he's got an average of 75. I have to fact check that. But it sounds about right because the Warriors are not playing through the middle.
I think he scored 5 tries in 10 games against the Warriors or something like that as well.
Yeah. So that's my money's on them. But and I know he's got the bung knee, but it looked okay last week. So I'm confident to put that on. I was interested in Tyrell May, but now he's on the bench. I'm a bit iffy. So straight onto Murray instead.
Yeah, you don't have the upside off the bench. The way you said just then before, so you started with I'm currently on Murray, and you finished with I'm confident on Murray. So you sort of talk yourself into it as you went. I was ready to attack. I'm going to go with Carrigan this week though, and I bought him for this reason last week. Without Payne Haas, he's a 60 to 70 scorer. He'll come out this week again. I think he'll pop off a good score. He also plays really early in the week, and I like to have those early in the week captains sometimes just to sort of artificially boost up that ranking and move up to a nice spot. So that's all we're doing here. So he'll be in that game. Ellie Cattell will score a hat trick as well, and I'll be feeling pretty good after Thursday or Friday night. Fogarty's a nice shout too. So Fogarty is a 61 average. So these are the averages over the last 3 games for these guys. 60 average across the year, 61 over the last 3. Hasn't scored below 58. And he's got Parramatta this week who, theoretically can leak some points. There'll definitely be a bunch of kicks on offer for him in this game. So he could be a good shout. And then Jimmy Tedesco. Robbie, I'll throw it to you, mate. Captaining a wing fullback in general, before we even go into Tedesco, have you ever done it? And why would you do it?
I think I've done it once and it didn't work out. So, obviously the attraction is against a weak opponent. You think they're going to run on top of them. Someone can, like today, Teddy can score 3 tries, or Turbo could have scored 3 tries against the Saints. So in theory, it's sound. But in reality, like I said, anyone can have a bad game, even versus like inferior opponents. So if their base stats aren't there, I generally would advise people not to go a fullback unless it's towards the end of the season and it's a bit of a punt, Hail Mary differential. But I think at this stage of the season, there's no need to go crazy. You just try to build your points up. But I know you've got different thoughts about people like Captain Teddy and the likes last week.
No, I'm with you. I basically never captain someone like this. I'm not into it. I like the pod buys. I don't mind having a wing fullback on my bench. I don't mind doing that sort of thing, but I'm not about that captain life. So I've got Nico Hines in my team. I like a safe captain. I bought Carrigan in particular for that safe captain option. I'd rather go with a safe captain in general. I just think if you go with a guy who has that downside, then you lose more than you win. Is my feel on it. And you can't pick these things either. Like if a team's, if the Roosters are going to smash the Dogs, it could just as easily be Sam Walker throwing 8 cutout passes to Dom Young and Tedesco not doing anything, as it could be Tedesco doing a bunch. He could take the foot off the pedal as well. You can just as easily have a game like you said with Turbo, having that quiet game. But I'm going to then completely contradict myself here and say that Tedesco scores 80 points this week and absolutely dominates. Am I captaining him? Absolutely not. I don't say you should, but if you do, you've got my nod of respect. That's what I'll throw in there.
You heard it here first, everyone.
Him, you can captain this guy, Tommy Talau.
Please don't. We're only joking. We're only joking.
Someone on the live earlier was talking about captaining Fair Tape. And I said to them, send a screenshot and I'll give you a shout out. And they backed down. So, yeah, I don't think anyone's that crazy to captain Talau or Fair Tape or any of these Tigers guys. But look, that's buy, hold, sell this week. Hopefully it was useful for you. Some really interesting options. So those buys, we love Kai Pierce-Paul. We love the Para Boys in particular. The risky business, keep an eye on Gus Crichton. He is one of the hottest options here. DC is a bit longer term. Sean Blaw should be a surefire guy, but wait a week on him. Hold or sell. We talked about all these guys. Sam Hughes could pop off. Ben Trbojevic is in the flames now. Cheapies, it's not great, but Blaze is the best of a bad bunch. Captaincy options, you're either going with Fungi, with Murray, or you're going Carrigan with me. Any last words for today, mate?
No, good luck for this week, everyone. I know there was a bit of carnage last week, so hopefully everyone gets back on the horse and don't be discouraged if you get a bad week. Anything can happen this week.
Wise words. I can't add to that. Just rise from the flames, everyone.